the energy efficiency standards?
The energy efficiency standards are still being discussed, so we will be talking about it in committee, but no resolution to that issue. We're still talking about it.
Why would you even consider changing them, seeing as how just 5 or 6 years ago, legislators passed that on a bipartisan basis, very strong support for it? Why would you even consider changing it?
Well, I think anyone who's been awake the last 5 years realizes that the energy landscape is very different today than it was when Senate Bill 221 was passed. Back then, we were looking at electric energy consumption going up at least 3% a year. We were looking at importing natural gas. Today, we are looking at an overabundance of natural gas, thankfully here in the state of Ohio. Energy consumption is decreasing, and so it's just a completely different landscape. And I think when situations that dramatic change, we have a responsibility to step back and say, does what we did years ago make sense in light of today's facts? So it's worth talking about.
What about election reforms? Are you going to take up any, and what kind of information do you have about what you're going to do?
Don't know. We are still talking about whether we would take up election reform. If we did, it would be very narrow. But at this point, we have nothing in committee and nothing planned.
Voter ID?
No.
What happened to the working group you were going to call on that
they
issue?
are still working. So that hasn't changed.
Senator, what's your thoughts on the Supreme Court decision today on the redistricting?
Well, I was gratified that they recognized the hard work that went into that legislation, and gratified that they upheld the lines as they were proposed. I have not had a chance to review the opinion. I'm told it was a quite lengthy opinion, and we have staff members going through that right now. But I was gratified that they upheld what we did.
In terms of, I guess, going back to the Harpy Bill, the versions that were kind of floating around, did you see any potential pathway for a compromise?
Well, I started asking them back in, I believe it was June of 2011, to sit down and talk. And it took more than a year for that to happen. And I'm grateful that it finally did happen. But here we are at the end of the General Assembly. And again, I still have constitutional concerns. And I know there was work done apparently in the last couple of weeks trying to make some additional changes. I assume those changes are contained in the bill that was dropped off at 9 o'clock this morning, but I've not had a chance to read it.
And you said you talked to the members of the caucus about this today. Was the reaction the same? Was the vibe the same from them? I know you said it's your decision, but what was their take on this?
Well, basically, there was I did not even ask for comment. I basically told them that my decision, based on conversations over the past 2 weeks, that it was my decision not to bring this bill up in lame duck, and I asked them to respect my decision, and left it at that.
How did that go over the caucus?
You'll have to ask them.
Senator, do you, there's movement in the House to possibly ban or strongly crack down on internet sweepstakes terminals. Do you support getting that through the General Assembly?
I do think we need to address the issue of the sweepstakes or the internet cafes. Senator Coley has been leading that effort here in the Senate, and I know the House has, I think, several bills looking at this issue. But I would like to address it in the lame duck session.
Do you prefer a ban or regulation? Those are kind of the two paths.
Yeah, and I've not settled on a point there, but my inclination would be to look more for regulation rather than an outright ban. But I want to hear the report from the committee. They're the ones that have been delving into each of the specific issues.
And when you say regulation, is one of the big parts of that being able to tax them, something like the 33% tax that casinos are paying, something like that?
I have not settled or given any direction to our members on that. It's basically let them have the discussion and come up with a proposal that makes sense.